Nowadays when we talk about this pandemic, there is so much politics around the parameters of what we're hearing, around how many cases are there really. Why don't you tell me right now, to the best of your ability, what you think the reality of the pandemic is compared to the figures that we're seeing in the papers every day?
Well, you're absolutely right. There has been partisanship infecting our response to this pandemic. And what we see in every country and every community around the world is that the virus exploits the fault lines of society. And one of the fault lines of our society is partisanship. So even things that really shouldn't be partisan become controversial, masks being one example. But if we look at the US, first off, you have to say it's not just one epidemic. There are many outbreaks. All epidemiology is local, just like politics. And what you see in many of the states of the Northeast is a relatively cooled down pandemic. Still, a lot of cases, if you compare it with countries in Asia and Europe that have really crushed their curves. But what you see in much of the south of the US is explosive spread. And one of the things that frustrates me as an epidemiologist is that the media are paying attention to the wrong numbers. They're obsessed with, are there 11,000 cases in Florida today? Well, we know that we're underdiagnosing by 3 to 10-fold. So people are saying, oh, are there going to be 100,000 cases a day in the US because there were 75,000 or 80,000 diagnosed? Well, there are already far more than 100,000 every day. We're just not diagnosing them all. And similarly, there's been this obsession with the number of tests. Oh, we're up to 700,000 tests. Wait a minute, but they're taking a week to come back, 10 days to come back? They're very close to useless in that circumstance. If we really want to get a handle on the pandemic in the US, we have to have a much better view of what risk is and what our response is. And those are the two things that we should focus on. And right now, the risk is very high in much of the country, and our response is quite problematic in much of the country as well.
So you've said that a big piece of the problem with data is actually at the federal level, not at the state. And I'm wondering where you think the federal government has fallen down. What exactly is this resolvable in the near term?
One of the things that we can do soon is get a much better standardized sense of how we're doing in every state and every county of the US. There should be standard definitions of the most important indicators. We released a list of 15 essential indicators. And what we found was if we went onto state dashboards, no state had even half of that information, and most states had less than a fifth of it. So we're flying blind in this epidemic. And the more the federal government empowers states and counties, defines clear indicators and expectations, and the more we in the public and the media insist on it, we'll have a much better sense of two crucial facts. One, what's our risk? And two, how well is our response going? What can we do to get the virus into better control, what we call boxing the virus in with strategic testing, fast isolation, effective contact tracing, and supportive quarantine. You do those four things, you get the virus in a box that's smaller and smaller so we can come out more. And right now, we don't know how that's going really in any community in the United States.